police called it a runaway case. 16-year-old Emma Hartwell, honor student, volleyball captain, disappeared 3 days ago from her bedroom window in Millbrook, Pennsylvania. No forced entry, no struggle, just gone, like smoke through screen mesh on a summer night. Detective Brennan handed me back Emma's school photo with the kind of rehearsed sympathy that comes from delivering bad news too many times. Mr. Hartwell, statistically, most teenagers who leave home return within 72 hours. We're doing everything we can, everything except actually looking for her. I'm David Hartwell. I worked at the VA hospital downtown before the budget cuts, before the nightmares from Kandahar got so bad I couldn't tell the difference between a car backfiring and incoming mortars. Before my wife Sarah packed her things and left because loving a broken man takes more strength than anyone should have to give. But Emma stayed. My daughter stayed, even when I'd wake up screaming at 3 a.m., even when I couldn't leave the house for days, even when I forgot her birthday because the medication made everything foggy. She'd bring me coffee and sit on the edge of my bed and say, "Dad, I'm here. You're home. You're safe." Now she's the one who's gone. On the fourth day, I met Marcus Reed outside the Millbrook Diner. Marcus is what the town calls a character, a 58-year-old black veteran who came back from Desert Storm with a Purple Heart and a German Shepherd named Liberty. He lives in a converted school bus on the edge of Mercer's Woods, does odd jobs, and keeps to himself. The kind of man people cross the street to avoid, muttering about property values and why doesn't he just get a real job. "Heard about your girl," Marcus said, Liberty sitting alert at his side. The dog's ears were scarred, one eye cloudy with age, but she watched everything with the intensity of a soldier on patrol. "Police ain't doing much, I reckon. They think she ran away." But Emma wouldn't. She just wouldn't. Marcus studied me with eyes that had seen too much, same as mine. "My daughter was 16 when I deployed in 91, came back and she didn't know me anymore. Married now, 2 kids, lives in Seattle. Hasn't called in 4 years. He scratched Liberty's head. "Point is, I know what it's like to lose someone while you're still standing in the same room as them." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Liberty found something this morning. Was walking her past St. Augustine's, that old stone church on Hickory Road, been abandoned since the diocese consolidated. She started digging near the foundation, wouldn't let it go." He pulled a plastic evidence bag from his jacket. Inside was a silver bracelet, tarnished but unmistakable. My hands shook as I took it. The engraving caught the light. "Emma, you are stronger than you know, Dad." I gave her that bracelet 2 years ago, when she found me in the garage with a bottle of pills in my hand and talked me down from the edge. She wore it every single day. "Where exactly did you find this?" Marcus pointed toward the woods. "Northwest corner of the church, near that old storm cellar entrance. Police came by there already days ago. Found nothing, they said." "Will you take me there?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'll take you there. But Mr. Hartwell, David, whatever we find, you gotta be prepared it might not be what you're hoping for." I was already walking toward his truck. "I stopped hoping 3 days ago. Now, I just need the truth." Liberty jumped into the truck bed, and we drove toward St. Augustine's as the October sun dipped behind the Pennsylvania hills, painting everything the color of old blood. St. Augustine's stood like a broken promise against the autumn sky. Built in 1887 by Irish immigrants who worked the now-defunct coal mines, it had been a cornerstone of Millbrook for over a century before the scandal. Father Mallory and the missing donation funds, the bishop's cold efficiency in closing, the doors, the slow decay as weather and time reclaimed what faith had built. Marcus parked his truck on the overgrown path that used to be the main drive. The cemetery behind the church had gone wild, headstones tilting like crooked teeth, angel statues green with moss. Liberty leaped down and immediately put her nose to the ground, pulling toward the northwest corner. "This is where she found it," Marcus said, pointing to a patch of disturbed earth near the foundation. The storm cellar doors were visible beneath decades of leaf rot and vines, Heavy iron painted with rust, padlocked with a chain that looked newer than everything around it. "That lock doesn't belong here," I said. "Notice that too." Marcus knelt down, Liberty circling restlessly. "This place supposed to be sealed up. Been sealed since 2008 according to county records." I grabbed the lock, modern, heavy-duty, the kind you'd use to keep people out or keep something in. "We need to open it." "Legally speaking, Marcus, my daughter's bracelet was buried next to this cellar." My voice came out harder than I intended. "I don't care about legally speaking." He met my eyes, and something passed between us. The understanding of men who'd seen the rules fail before, who'd watched bureaucracy move too slow while people died. He pulled a bolt cutter from his truck. The lock broke with a metallic snap that echoed across the empty churchyard. The iron doors groaned as we pulled them open. Stone steps descended into darkness that smelled of earth and water and something else, something chemical, artificial. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam revealed stairs leading down about 15 feet to a dirt floor. "Emma." My voice bounced off stone walls. Silence answered. Liberty whined, refusing to descend. "She's trained for search and rescue," Marcus said quietly. "If she won't go down, there's a reason." Then I go alone. I started down the steps, each one crumbling slightly under my weight. The cellar opened, into a larger space than I expected, maybe 20 feet square, with alcoves carved into the walls. Originally for storing coal and supplies for the church, now it held something else. My flashlight found sleeping bags in one corner, empty food containers, protein bars, beef jerky, bottled water, a camping lantern, and on a makeshift shelf constructed from cinder blocks, a laptop, battery pack, and a journal with Emma's name written on the cover in her precise handwriting. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Emma! Emma! David!" Marcus had come down despite Liberty's warning, his own flashlight sweeping the space. "Look at this." The wall behind the sleeping bags was covered in papers, photographs, newspaper clippings, printouts, all pinned to a piece of plywood propped against the stone. My light traced over headlines. "Local businessman donates $50K to youth center mayor. Thompson celebrates town's economic revival. Millbrook High receives anonymous scholarship fund," and photographs. Dozens of photographs. But they weren't celebrating community generosity, they were surveillance shots. Mayor Thompson entering a motel on Route 22. Dale Bradshaw, owner of Bradshaw Construction, accepting an envelope from a man I didn't recognize in the parking lot of the abandoned textile mill. County Commissioner Patricia Voss meeting with the same man in her car outside the Walmart on Route 15. "What the hell was Emma doing?" I whispered. Marcus pointed to the center of the board. One photograph dominated the display. A man in his mid-40s, handsome in that country club way, silver-haired, wearing expensive casual clothes. He stood outside a warehouse I didn't recognize, smoking a cigarette. Beneath the photo, Emma had written in red marker, "Carter Hayes, the shepherd." "You know him?" Marcus asked. "No, but Emma did." I picked up her journal, hands shaking. "She found something. She was investigating something. And now she's missing," Marcus said. "David, if your daughter stumbled into something involving the mayor, the county commissioner, this is bigger than a runaway case." I opened the journal to the last entry, dated the day before Emma disappeared. "Dad, if you're reading this, I'm either really stupid or really dead. Maybe both. I found proof of everything. The trafficking operation, the money laundering, the protection network. Carter Hayes runs it all, and they're using the youth center as a front. Mr. Peterson at school is involved. Coach Williams, too. I made copies of everything and hid them where you'll know to look. The place we went after Mom left, where you told me about Kandahar. Our secret spot. I'm going to try to get more evidence tonight. If something happens to me, please don't let them say I ran away. I didn't run, I fought. I love you, Dad." You taught me to be brave even when you couldn't be brave yourself. The journal fell from my hands. Youth Center, Marcus said slowly. The Millbrook Youth Center opened 4 years ago. Big donation, from anonymous benefactors. Serves at-risk teens, runaways, kids in the foster system. It's a hunting ground, I said, the pieces sliding into place with sickening clarity. Emma was a volunteer there. She tutored kids twice a week. She must have seen something, noticed something wrong. Marcus was already scrolling through his phone. Carter Hayes, here. CEO of Hayes Logistics, headquarters in Harrisburg. Owns warehouses throughout central Pennsylvania. Multiple citations from OSHA. Nothing that stuck. Clean public image. Board member of 3 charities, donor to both political parties. Where's his warehouse? Got 4 of them within 50 miles. But David, we need to call the police, the FBI. Emma wrote that Mr. Peterson and Coach Williams are involved. Peterson is married to a state trooper. Williams's brother is a county detective. I grabbed Marcus's arm. We call the wrong people and evidence disappears. Emma disappears for good if she hasn't already. The words hung in the cold air of the cellar. Our secret spot, Marcus said quietly. Where is it? The old observation tower at Mercer's Woods State Park. Closed to the public after the railing fell apart. Emma and I used to hike up there after Sarah left. I'd tell her about Afghanistan, about the things I'd seen. She'd listen, never judged, just listened. Then that's where we start, Marcus said. Get the evidence, figure out which law enforcement we can trust, bring these bastards down. And find Emma, I said. And find Emma, he agreed. We climbed out of the cellar into the dying light. Liberty stood guard at the top of the stairs, hackles raised, staring at something in the tree line. A car engine started in the distance. Someone was watching, Marcus whispered. We ran for his truck, Liberty racing ahead. As Marcus gunned the engine and we peeled down the old church road, I looked back once. A black SUV pulled out from behind the cemetery, following at a distance. They knew we'd eyes, found Emma's hideout. Which meant they'd be watching the observation tower too. We lost the SUV on the back roads, or Marcus did, handling his beat-up Ford like a rally driver, taking turns I didn't know existed through farmland and forest. Liberty braced herself in the truck bed, ears flat against the wind. By the time we reached the parking area for Mercer's Woods, twilight had given way to full dark. We hike in without lights until we're sure we're clear, Marcus said, killing the engine. You still know the way? I could walk it blind. We did almost exactly that, using only scattered moonlight filtering through the canopy. The trail to the observation tower was officially closed, marked with faded warning signs and a rusted chain across the path. Marcus stepped over it without hesitation, Liberty close at his side. My body remembered this hike even if my mind was elsewhere. 1,300 yards through mixed hardwood forest, then the steep climb up the ridge where the old fire tower stood. Emma and I had made this journey dozens of times in the months after Sarah left, when the silence in our house became unbearable and the woods were the only place my thoughts didn't eat me alive. Dad, do you think the things you did over there make you a bad person? Emma had asked once, sitting on the tower platform with her legs dangling through the broken railing 18 months ago. I think war doesn't leave room for good or bad, I'd answered. Just necessary and unnecessary, and living with the necessary things afterward. Is that why you can't sleep? That's why I can't do a lot of things, sweetheart. She'd leaned her head against my shoulder. I think you're brave. Not for the war stuff, for still being here, for trying. Now she was the one missing and I was the one still trying. The observation tower loomed ahead, a skeletal structure of steel and wood that had been built by the CCC in the 1930s. 40 feet of ladder led to a platform that once allowed rangers to spot forest fires. Now it was just a safety liability waiting for the state to demolish. Your daughter climbed this? Marcus asked, eyeing the ladder doubtfully. She's a better climber than I am. I started up, testing each rung. The metal groaned but held. The platform at the top was 8 feet square, enclosed by waist-high railings that wouldn't pass any modern safety code. The view during daylight stretched for miles: the valley, the town, the patchwork of farms and forest. Now it was just darkness and distant lights from Millbrook's streets. "Our secret spot," I muttered, scanning the platform. Where would she hide something? The old ranger's equipment box sat in one corner, rusted shut. I pulled out my multi-tool and pried it open. Inside, ancient weather logs, a broken compass, mouse nests, and, wrapped in a plastic Ziploc bag, a thumb drive. "Got it," I called down to Marcus. That's when Liberty started barking. Marcus's shout came urgent and low. "David, company!" I looked down to see flashlight beams cutting through the trees, multiple sources, moving fast. The sound of men crashing through underbrush, not bothering with stealth anymore. "How many?" I called. "At least 4, armed. David, you need to—" The gunshot cut him off, impossibly loud in the quiet forest. I heard Marcus grunt, heard Liberty's snarl turn vicious. I grabbed the thumb drive and scrambled down the ladder, dropping the last 10 feet. Marcus was behind the tower's base, one hand pressed to his shoulder, dark blood seeping between his fingers. Liberty stood in front of him, teeth bared, facing 3 men emerging from the trail. They wore civilian clothes but moved with tactical precision. The lead man held a pistol casually, like he'd done this before. Behind him, 2 others carried flashlights and what looked like AR-15s slung across their chests. "Mr. Hartwell," the lead man said. His voice was smooth, educated. "I'm going to need you to hand over whatever you found in that tower. Where's my daughter? That depends entirely on your next choice." He gestured with the pistol. "The drive, now, and we all walk away from this." Marcus's voice came strained. "David, don't. Your friend needs a hospital," the man continued. "That shoulder wound is bleeding pretty good. Another 10 minutes he might not make it even if you do the right thing. So let's not drag this out." I looked at the thumb drive in my hand. Emma's evidence. Maybe the only thing that could save her or prove what happened to her. "Who are you?" I asked. "Someone who handles problems for Mr. Hayes. Your daughter became a problem when she started taking pictures of things that weren't her business. Stealing files from computers she shouldn't have accessed. Building conspiracy boards in abandoned church cellars. She's 16 years old. Old enough to cause significant damage to a very lucrative operation." He stepped closer. "Here's what you don't understand. Mr. Hartwell, your daughter isn't special. She's one of dozens of curious kids who thought they saw something wrong and decided to play detective. Most of them take the money. Some take the threats. A few—" he shrugged. "Well, a few require more permanent solutions." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You killed her." "I didn't say that. I said she required a solution. Now give me the drive, and maybe you'll get to find out what solution we chose." Liberty's growl had become a constant rumble. Marcus was fading, his breathing shallow. The 3 men had us boxed in, the tower at our backs, forest on all sides. Even if I ran, they'd hunt me down before I made it to the truck. But I didn't come back from Kandahar by following orders from men with guns. "Okay," I said, holding up the drive. "Okay, just let us get him to a hospital." "That's the smart choice." The man holstered his pistol and reached for the drive. I threw it as hard as I could into the darkness beyond the tower, heard it clatter somewhere in the rocks and undergrowth. The man's expression didn't change, but something cold settled into his eyes. "That was stupid." "Probably," I agreed. "But you're going to spend the next hour searching for it in the dark, which gives us time to—" Liberty launched herself at the nearest armed man before I finished speaking. 70 pounds of trained German Shepherd hit him in the chest, and his flashlight went flying. Marcus rolled to his feet despite the shoulder wound, charging the second gunman with a roar that belonged on a battlefield. I went for the leader, muscle memory from close quarters combat training taking over. He was fast, getting his pistol halfway out before I closed the distance. We hit the ground hard, grappling for the weapon. He was younger, probably stronger, but I had nothing left to lose. The gun went off between us, deafening. For a second I thought he'd shot me, but then I felt warm blood that wasn't mine, and he went limp. I grabbed his pistol and spun to see Marcus down again, the second gunman standing over him with a rifle pointed at his chest. Liberty had the third man on the ground, his arm in her jaws, his screaming echoing through the forest. "Drop it!" the gunman shouted at me. Mexican standoff. I had a pistol. He had Marcus. Liberty had his partner. We all had about 3 seconds before someone else died. "My daughter," I said. "Where is she?" "Drop the fucking gun." "Where is she?" Marcus's voice came weak but clear. "David, the warehouse. Hayes Logistics on Route 422, that's where they take them." The gunman's eyes flickered toward Marcus, just a fraction of a second, but enough. I fired twice, center mass, the way they'd taught me in basic. He went down. Liberty released the third man's arm and he scrambled backward, unarmed, terrified. "I don't know anything," he screamed. "They just told us to recover the drive. I don't know about any girl." "Run," I told him, "and if I ever see you again, you're dead." He ran. I dropped beside Marcus. The shoulder wound looked bad, but he was breathing, conscious. "Can you walk?" "Can I walk?" he muttered. "Brother, I ran a marathon on a broken ankle in Kuwait. I can walk." Liberty limped over. She'd taken a kick or a bullet graze, I couldn't tell, but her tail wagged when Marcus touched her head. We half carried, half dragged each other back to the truck, leaving 2 bodies by the observation tower and the thumb drive somewhere in the rocks. I'd memorized what I saw in Emma's journal, the names, the connections. The evidence was in my head now. "Hayes Logistics on Route 422, Marcus repeated as I drove, pressing his jacket against his shoulder. "Big warehouse complex, heavy security. If Emma's alive, that's where she is. And if she's not? Then we burn the whole goddamn thing to the ground anyway," he said. "For her. And for every other kid they took." I pressed the accelerator harder, the speedometer climbing past 80 on the dark. Country highway. Behind us, sirens began to wail in the distance. Someone had heard the gunshots, called it in. The police would find the bodies, start asking questions. But we'd be long gone, heading toward Route 422 and whatever truth waited there. The clock on the dashboard read 9:47 p.m. Emma had been missing for 4 days, 9 hours and 33 minutes. I was coming for her. Route 422 cut through the industrial wasteland east of Harrisburg, abandoned factories, truck stops, and warehouses that served as the circulatory system for goods moving up and down the eastern seaboard. Hayes Logistics occupied 5 acres behind a chain-link fence, 3 massive buildings surrounded by loading docks, and a parking lot full of semi-trailers. We parked a quarter-mile away at a defunct gas station, Marcus's truck hidden behind an overgrown dumpster. I'd fashioned a crude bandage for his shoulder using a torn t-shirt, but he'd lost blood, and his skin had taken on a grayish pallor. "You need a hospital," I said. "What I need is to see this through." He loaded the pistol we'd taken from the dead man. "Liberty and I have been in worse shape. Desert Storm, I took shrapnel from a Scud missile and still pulled 2 Marines out of a burning Humvee. This is Tuesday." Liberty sat between us, alert despite her own injury. A bullet had grazed her hind leg, but she didn't show pain. Working dogs never do. "Security's going to be heavy," Marcus said, studying the warehouse through binoculars. "Cameras on every corner, guards at the main gate, 3 vehicles in the lot. One's that black SUV that followed us from the church. Then they know we're coming. They know someone's coming. Question is whether they've moved Emma or if she's still inside." I thought about the journal entry. I'm going to try to get more evidence tonight. Emma had gone to that warehouse 4 days ago. Had they grabbed her there? Or had she made it out with evidence and they'd tracked her home? "Rear. Entrance," Marcus said, pointing. "Loading dock, minimal cameras. If we move during a shift change, there's no time for surveillance and planning. If Emma's in there, every minute counts. If she's not, I didn't finish the sentence. Then we confirm it and get out alive to use what we know. Marcus finished. David, I've been in enough combat to know when a mission is suicide. We go in guns blazing. We don't come out. And if we don't come out, nobody knows what Hayes has been doing. He was, right. But the father in me was drowning out the soldier. I can't leave her in there, I said. Marcus nodded slowly. Then we do it smart. Create a diversion, pull security away from the main building, slip in during the chaos. Get in, find Emma, or confirmation she was there, get out. Use what we learned to bring in the feds, the real feds, ones Hayes doesn't own. What kind of diversion? Liberty's ears perked up. She was staring at the propane tanks stacked near the loading dock. Marcus followed her gaze and smiled grimly. The kind that makes a statement. 20 minutes later, we were crouched in the shadows behind a row of trailers, Liberty on point. Marcus had rigged a timer device using his watch battery, some wire from the truck, and a road flare. It wouldn't win any engineering awards, but it would ignite the propane. 5 minutes, he whispered. When it blows, they'll evacuate and scramble fire response. That's our window. You should stay here with Liberty. That, shoulder. Not a chance. You don't leave a man behind. That's the code. We synchronized watches like we were back in uniform, and for a moment I felt that old clarity. The mission focus, the tunnel vision that drowns out fear. This was what I'd trained for. Not the killing, but the purpose. Finding the lost. Bringing them home. The timer started counting down. We moved along the fence line to the rear gate. A simple chain-link barrier with a padlock that Marcus made short work of. The cameras were pointed at the loading dock, giving us a narrow blind spot to work with. 2 minutes. The rear door was locked but not alarmed. Overconfidence or oversight, I didn't know and didn't care. I'd liberated one of the tactical knives from the dead man at the tower and used it to jimmy the lock. The door opened on darkness. 1 minute. We slipped inside. The warehouse interior was exactly what I'd feared. A maze of corridors, offices, storage rooms. Voices echoed from somewhere ahead, men talking. A radio crackling. 30 seconds. Offices are upstairs, Marcus whispered, pointing to a metal staircase. If they're holding people, it won't be in the open warehouse. We started climbing. The explosion tore through the night like the end of the world. A rolling boom that shook the building's foundation and set off every alarm in the complex. Shouts erupted from below, feet pounding, orders being barked. Through the windows, I could see a fireball rising from the loading dock. The propane. Tanks cooking off in sequence. Go! Marcus hissed. We reached the second floor as the building emptied beneath us. Security and workers flooding toward the fire. The corridor ahead was lined with doors. Offices on the left, storage on the right. One door at the end had a different lock, something heavy-duty, out of place. I ran for it. David, wait. I kicked the door, my boot connecting just below the lock. It held. I kicked again, harder, and the frame splintered. The door swung open. The room was small, windowless, lit by a single bare bulb, and inside, Emma. She was alive, zip-tied to a chair, duct tape across her mouth, her face bruised and swollen, but alive. Her eyes went wide when she saw me, tears streaming down her cheeks. I crossed the space in 2 strides and ripped the tape from her mouth. I've got you, sweetheart. I've got you. Dad, it's a trap. The voice came from behind us. She's right about that. I turned to see Carter Hayes standing in the doorway, flanked by 2 more armed men. He looked exactly like his photograph. Silver hair, expensive clothes, the face of a man used to being in control. He held a pistol loosely at his side. Mr. Hartwell, Hayes said, you've been quite persistent. I respect that. Military training, I assume? Marcus Reed. He nodded at Marcus, who had his gun halfway up. Desert Storm veteran, Purple Heart recipient, living on the margins of society despite your service. Both of you exemplify what's wrong with how this country treats its warriors. You don't get to lecture us about service, I said, cutting Emma's zip ties. I'm not lecturing, I'm observing. You came back broken, dependent on systems that failed you, drowning in debt and medication and trauma. And society expects you to be grateful. Hayes gestured around the warehouse. I provide a service. I give purpose to the purposeless. The kids who end up here, they were already lost. Foster care, addiction, abuse. I give them work, structure, direction. You traffic them, Emma spat, rubbing her wrists. I saw the files, the shipments. You move them like cargo to whoever pays. I provide labor to industries that need workers willing to do what Americans won't. It's economics. And yes, some of the opportunities I broker are in adult entertainment or domestic service overseas. But these kids had nothing. Now they have money, travel. Now they're slaves, Marcus said flatly. Dress it up however you want. You're a slaver. Hayes' pleasant expression cracked just slightly. You self-righteous hypocrites. You think you're better than me? You went overseas and killed people for oil and geopolitics and called it defending freedom. I'm at least honest about the transaction. Where are the others? Emma asked. There were 7 kids at the youth center who disappeared in the last year. Where are they? Gone, shipped, serving their purpose. Hayes raised the pistol, pointing it at Emma's chest. And you would have joined them if you'd cooperated. But you had to be righteous too. Had to build your little investigation, steal my files, hide your evidence. You're just like your father, too broken to accept the world as it is. She's not broken, I said. She's the strongest person I know. Then she'll die strong. Hayes' finger tightened on the trigger. I'd apologize, but Liberty hit him from behind like a missile. The dog had been silent, waiting, and now she launched herself through the doorway, 70 pounds of trained aggression. Hayes went down hard, the pistol skittering across the floor. His guards swung their rifles around, but Marcus already had his weapon up. Don't, Marcus said. For a frozen second, everyone calculated odds. Liberty had Hayes' gun arm in her jaws. Marcus had a clear shot on both guards. I had Emma behind me, shielding her with my body. The guards lowered their rifles. Smart choice, Marcus said. David, get Emma and go. I'll handle this. Marcus, go, before the cops get here. I grabbed Emma's hand and ran. Behind us, I heard Hayes screaming, Liberty snarling, Marcus barking orders at the guards. We hit the staircase as sirens wailed in the distance, fire trucks responding to the explosion, probably police not far behind. The warehouse floor was chaos, smoke from the fire rolling through open doors, sprinklers activated, water raining down. We sprinted for the rear exit, Emma keeping pace despite obvious exhaustion and injuries. We burst out into the night air. The propane fire was still burning, casting orange light across the complex. I could see emergency vehicles flooding through the main gate. The truck's this way, I said, pulling Emma toward the fence. Dad, wait. We need to get the evidence. There's a server room on the 3rd floor. Everything's backed up there. Financial records, shipping manifests, names of everyone involved. If we leave without it... Emma, I don't care about the evidence. I care about you. But the other kids are gone or safe and we'll find them. But you're here now, alive, and we're leaving. She stopped, forcing me to stop. In the firelight, she looked so much like her mother. Same stubborn jaw, same fierce eyes. Dad, you told me once that the worst part of war was coming home and realizing the sacrifice meant nothing if you didn't keep fighting for what mattered. You said you couldn't save everyone in Kandahar, but you could save who you could reach. She squeezed my hand. These kids are who we can reach. Please. I looked at my daughter, beaten, traumatized, still thinking about others before herself, and saw who she'd become while I was drowning in my own darkness. 3rd floor server room, I said. We have 3 minutes before this place is swarming with police. If Hayes or Marcus doesn't own them, they'll lock everything down. We ran back into the warehouse. The third floor was a labyrinth of executive offices and conference rooms, abandoned in the chaos. Emma navigated it like she'd been there before, which she probably had during her surveillance. The server room door was locked, but she produced a key card from her pocket. "Stole it from Mr. Peterson's office at school," she explained. "He's one of Hayes's recruiters. He'd use it to access Hayes's network from home." The door beeped and unlocked. Inside, racks of servers hummed in climate-controlled air. Emma went straight to a terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard with the confidence of someone who'd grown up. Digital. "I need a drive," she said. "Something with at least 500 gigs. I looked around frantically. Nothing. "Emma, we don't have time." She pulled a portable hard drive from behind one of the server racks. "Hid it here 3 days ago before they grabbed me. I knew I'd need backup." She plugged it in, initiated a transfer. 2 minutes for the download." "We don't have 2 minutes." "Then buy me time." Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Multiple people, moving fast. I moved to the door, the pistol heavy in my hand. Through the small window I could see shadows approaching. Security, probably, or Hayes's people regrouping. The door handle rattled. "Emma! 90 seconds!" The door burst open. I raised the pistol, but the person who entered had a badge held high and a face I recognized from Emma's investigation board. Patricia Voss, County Commissioner. Except now she wore an FBI windbreaker and had a very official-looking Glock pointed at my chest. "David Hartwell. Drop the weapon. Emma, step away from the terminal." I didn't lower the gun. "You're on Hayes's payroll. Emma has proof." "Had proof," Voss said calmly. "Past tense. Before she destroyed her credibility by breaking into private property, assaulting security personnel, and committing arson. That's how this will read in every report." "Your FBI?" 22 years, based out of Harrisburg. And yes, before you ask, I've been providing protection for Hayes's operation in exchange for intelligence on larger trafficking networks. The kids he moves, they were going to be exploited somewhere. At least this way we control some of the flow. Necessary evil. 60 seconds, Emma said quietly, not looking up from the screen. "There's no such thing as necessary evil," I said. "Just evil we're too cowardly to stop." Voss's expression hardened. "You're a veteran, Hartwell. You know about acceptable losses, about making hard choices so others don't have to. Don't lecture me about courage when you spent 2 years hiding in your house medicating yourself into oblivion while your family fell apart." The words hit like a gut punch because they were true. But Emma's voice cut through the shame. 45 seconds. "And Agent Voss? My father might have been broken, but he's here now. Where were you when those 7 kids disappeared?" "Oh, right, helping cover it up." Voss shifted her aim to Emma. "Turn off the download, now." "No." "Emma," I started. 30 seconds, Dad. "She's not going to shoot me. She shoots me. She has to shoot you. And then she has to explain why an FBI agent killed a missing teenager and her decorated veteran father in a warehouse owned by the man she's protecting. Even with her connections, that's too messy." Voss's jaw clenched. "You're betting your life on that logic?" 20 seconds, and yes, I am, because you've already lost. Those security guards downstairs, the ones Marcus Reed is holding, they're singing. And the fire department isn't the only one responding. I called the State Police Corruption Unit from Hayes's office phone before we came up here. They should be pulling through the gates right about... New sirens, different pitch. Through the window, I could see vehicles marked State Police flooding into the complex. "Now," Emma finished. "Download complete." She yanked the hard drive and tossed it to me. I caught it one-handed, keeping the pistol trained on Voss. "You called the State Police," Voss repeated slowly. "Before you got me the evidence, I called them and told them an FBI agent was compromised and running a protection racket for a trafficking operation. I gave them your name, Hayes's name, and Peterson's name. I told them they'd find evidence in the server room on the third floor of Hayes Logistics. Emma stepped away from the terminal. So yeah, you could shoot us, but those troopers are going to find that server either way, and when they do, they'll find the backup files showing your payments, your meetings, your involvement. I made sure of it. Voss stared at Emma like she was looking at a ghost. You're 16. Old enough to know right from wrong, which is apparently more than you learned in 22 years with the FBI. The sound of boots on stairs, lots of them, shouts of state police, clear the area. Voss lowered her weapon slowly. Her face had gone blank, the look of someone calculating just how thoroughly their life has imploded. You don't understand the complexity of these operations, the politics, the compromises. I understand you sold kids to save yourself, Emma said. That's the only complexity that matters. State troopers burst through the door, weapons drawn, shouting for everyone to get on the ground. I dropped the pistol immediately and grabbed Emma, pulling her down with me. Voss surrendered her weapon without resistance, her hands up, that blank expression never changing. The next 30 minutes were a blur of handcuffs, questions, paramedics checking Emma, more questions. They separated us, me in one interview room, Emma in another, both in the back of different ambulances, then both in the parking lot surrounded by law enforcement from at least 3 agencies. I caught glimpses. Marcus being loaded into an ambulance, his shoulder bandaged properly now, Liberty beside him refusing to leave. Hayes being walked out in cuffs, his expensive clothes torn and bloodied from Liberty's attack, his face a mask of fury. The security guards in custody, fire crews, extinguishing what was left of the propane blaze. And Emma's hard drive, sealed in an evidence bag, being carried to an unmarked vehicle by a woman in a suit who introduced herself as Assistant U.S. Attorney Carol Brennan. Mr. Hartwell, Brennan said, approaching me where I sat on the back of an ambulance. Your daughter just handed us the most comprehensive trafficking investigation in Pennsylvania history. The server data she downloaded includes financial records linking Hayes to operations in 14 states, payment records showing bribes to 47 public officials, and shipping manifests with names of 218 victims. The 7 kids from Millbrook, I said. Can you find them? We're working on it. The manifests have destinations but not always names. Hayes was smart about compartmentalizing, but we have leads, and more importantly, we have the network. When we're done arresting everyone involved, we'll have shut down one of the largest trafficking operations on the East Coast. Emma did that, not me. Emma did the investigation. You got her out alive and made sure the evidence survived. I'd say that's a team effort. Brennan glanced toward where Emma sat, wrapped in a blanket, giving a statement to 2 troopers. She's remarkable, brave, but she's also going to need support processing what happened to her, what she saw. I know. Do you? Because from what I understand, you've been dealing with your own trauma for a while now. I looked at Brennan, this stranger who'd somehow sized up my entire broken life in a single sentence. I'm her father. I'll do whatever she needs. Good. Because she's going to need her father to be present. Not perfect. Present. Brennan handed me a card. My office will be in touch for further statements. You'll both likely have to testify when this goes to trial. In the meantime, take care of each other. She walked away toward the evidence vehicle. A trooper removed my handcuffs. They'd been precautionary, he explained, until they sorted out who was who in the chaos. I made my way to Emma immediately. She looked up as I approached, and for the first time in 4 days, she smiled. Hey, Dad. Hey, sweetheart. I sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders touched. You scared me. I scared myself, but I found them. The evidence, I mean, all of it. Every kid Hayes took, every official he bought, every shipment he made. It's all there. I know. You did good. Better than good. But the 7 from Millbrook, Brennan said they might not be able to. They'll find them, I said firmly. They have resources we don't, and they have what you gave them. Emma, you did everything right. Now let them do their jobs. She leaned against me, suddenly exhausted. I thought he was going to kill me. Hayes. When they grabbed me at the warehouse and zip-tied me to that chair, I thought, this is it. And all I could think was that I didn't want you to blame yourself. That wasn't in my journal. I should have written that. My throat tightened. I blamed myself anyway. I know. But Dad? She looked up at me. You came for me. Even broken, even scared you came. That's what I knew you'd do. That's why I wasn't actually afraid. Not really. Because I knew you'd find me. I couldn't speak. Could only hold my daughter and let the tears come. 4 days of terror and rage and love spilling out in the parking lot of a warehouse where she'd almost died. Sir? One of the paramedics approached cautiously. We need to transport your daughter to Millbrook General for examination. You can ride with her if you'd like. I looked at Emma. She nodded. Let's go home, I said. The hospital cleared Emma after 6 hours of examinations, interviews, and protocols. Bruised ribs, minor lacerations, dehydration, but nothing permanently damaged. At least not physically. The psychological evaluation would come later, the therapist explained. The trauma would surface in waves, unpredictable, and often delayed. I knew something about that. They admitted Marcus overnight for the shoulder wound and kept Liberty in the veterinary hospital annex. Bullet graze, some muscle damage, but she'd recover. I visited them both before we left. Marcus was awake, morphine drowsy but alert. Your girl's something else, he said. Calling the state police from enemy territory. That's command-level thinking. She learned from the best, I said. Thank you, Marcus. For everything. Brother, you don't thank family. And that's what we are now, forged in fire. He closed his eyes. Those kids Hayes took. We're going to find them, right? Not just arrest the bastards involved, but actually find the kids and bring them home. We're going to try. Trying's all any of us can do. Desert Storm, they told us we'd liberate Kuwait in weeks. Took months, but we kept trying. His hand found Liberty's head where she lay beside the bed. Keep trying, David. For Emma, for those kids, for yourself. That's the mission now. Roger that. Sarah called as we drove home in a borrowed state police cruiser. Word had spread fast, and my ex-wife's voice shook with emotions I couldn't parse. Relief, anger, fear. I'm coming back, she said. Tomorrow. I'm flying in from Atlanta. Emma needs, you both need. Sarah, I appreciate it, but David, don't push me away. I left because I couldn't watch you destroy yourself, but Emma almost died and I wasn't there and you were, and I just... Her voice broke. Let me come back, please. We don't have to fix everything, but let me be there for our daughter. Emma took the phone from my hand. Mom? Yeah, I'm okay. Dad got me out. Dad and Marcus and Liberty. It's a long story. But Mom, if you come back, you need to really be back. Not just guilty present. Actually present. Because Dad's been here the whole time. Even when he was broken. And I need both of you now, but I need you real. She listened for a moment, then nodded. Okay. See you tomorrow. She ended the call and handed back the phone. That was harsh, I said. That was honest. She left us when things got hard. I get why, but I'm allowed to be angry about it. And if she's coming back, it needs to be for the right reasons. When did you get so wise? Somewhere between building an investigation board in a church cellar and being kidnapped by human traffickers. Trauma ages you, apparently. We drove in silence for a while. Millbrook appeared ahead, its lights warm against the October night. Home. Broken and complicated and imperfect. But home. Dad? Emma said quietly. What you told me at the tower once. About the necessary things you did in war and learning to live with them afterward. I think I understand now. What I did. Stealing files, breaking into Hayes's warehouse, all of it. It was necessary. But I'm going to have to live with it. The fear, the violence, what I saw. Yeah, you will. Will it get easier? I thought about the 2 years I'd spent drowning, the medication, the nightmares, the days I couldn't leave the house. And then I thought about the last 4 days, the clarity of purpose, the single-minded focus on finding Emma, the way everything else fell away when what mattered came into focus. It gets different, I said. Not easier. But you learn to carry it. And you don't carry it alone. That's the part I got wrong for a long time. You let the people who love you help carry it. Will you help me carry it? Every day. For as long as you need. She reached over and took my hand. We pulled into our driveway at 4:17 a.m. The house looked the same, small, in need of paint, surrounded by the kind of working-class respectability that Millbrook specialized in. But walking through the door felt different. Like coming home from deployment, everything familiar but somehow changed by what you'd seen. Emma went straight upstairs to shower. I sat in the kitchen and opened my laptop, searching for news coverage. It was already breaking. Massive trafficking ring. Busted in Central PA FBI agent, among dozens arrested in operation. Teen hero exposes corruption network. I closed the laptop before reading further. Emma didn't need to be a hero in the headlines. She needed to be a 16-year-old girl who could heal without cameras watching. My phone buzzed. A text from Assistant U.S. Attorney Brennan. Hayes is talking, trying to cut a deal. Gave us locations for 14 of the victims, including 5 of your Millbrook 7. Recovery operations start at dawn. We'll keep you informed. 5 out of 7. Not perfect. But 5 kids coming home who wouldn't have without Emma's courage and evidence. I forwarded the text to Emma's phone, then started coffee. Outside, dawn was breaking over Millbrook, painting the sky purple and gold. Birds were singing. The world was waking up to a day that looked like every other day, except everything had changed. Emma came downstairs in clean clothes, her hair wet, looking younger without the grime of the warehouse. She saw my phone, screen with the news, and nodded slowly. 5, she said. 5 coming home. Because of you. Because of us. You, me, Marcus, Liberty, even the state police corruption unit. That's how this stuff works, right? Nobody saves the world alone. No, I agreed. Nobody saves the world alone. She poured coffee. When had she started drinking coffee? And sat across from me at the kitchen table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals, had 1,000 conversations, lived 1,000 ordinary moments of father and daughter learning to survive each other in the world. Dad, I need to tell you something. My chest tightened. Okay. When I was in that room, tied to the chair, I kept thinking about what you said once. That the worst part of Kandahar wasn't the fighting, it was the waiting. The hours before missions when you knew something terrible was coming but couldn't do anything about it. She wrapped her hands around the coffee mug. I get it now. That helplessness. That fear that's worse than the actual violence because your mind fills in all the terrible possibilities. Emma, let me finish. I get it now, which means I get why you struggled, why you needed medication, why you couldn't sleep, why you'd have bad days. I used to think you were weak for not just getting over it, but there's no getting over it. There's only getting through it, and I'm going to need help getting through it. We'll find you a therapist, a good one, whatever you need. I need my dad. That's what I need, most. Not perfect dad or hero dad or completely healed dad, just you trying. That's enough. The sun cleared the horizon, flooding the kitchen with light. I can do that, I said. I can try. Then we'll try together. We sat in the kitchen as Millbrook woke up around us, 2 broken people who'd found each other in the darkness and made it back to the light. Not whole, not healed, but together, trying, which turned out to be the only thing that mattered. 3 weeks later, I stood in the parking lot of Millbrook Community Center, the same building that had housed the youth center before the FBI shut it down and arrested everyone involved. The autumn leaves had turned full brilliant gold and red, That brief Pennsylvania glory before winter comes. Marcus leaned against his truck, Liberty at his side. The dog's leg had healed, and she looked alert, healthy, ready for whatever came next. Marcus's shoulder was still in a sling, but he'd regained color and strength. "You sure about this?" he asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." The community meeting had been Sarah's idea, surprisingly. She'd returned to Millbrook as promised and moved into a rental house 3 blocks from our place. Not back home, not yet, maybe not ever in that way, but present, working on being present. She'd coordinated with Assistant U.S. Attorney Brennan and the Victim Services coordinators to organize this gathering. Inside the center, families waited. The parents and guardians of the 7 missing kids, from Millbrook. Some I recognized from news coverage over the past year, their faces haunted by vanished children. Others I'd seen around town, at the grocery store or gas station. Ordinary people living with extraordinary absence. 5 empty chairs sat at the front of the room. 5 kids who were coming home. Emma stood beside Sarah near those chairs, looking nervous but determined. She'd spent the last 3 weeks in intensive therapy, dealing with the trauma of her abduction. Some days were good. Some days she couldn't leave her room. But she was trying, and that was enough. The 6th chair, empty, belonged to a girl named Maria Santos, 17. She'd been recovered from a facility in Nevada, but she was still hospitalized, too traumatized to travel. Her mother sat alone in the audience, clutching a photograph and crying quietly. The 7th chair belonged to a boy named Jamie Chen, 15. He hadn't been found yet. Hayes claimed he'd been contracted to a buyer in Southeast Asia, but the trail went cold at LAX. Federal agencies were still searching. His parents sat together holding hands, faces carved from stone. The door opened and 5 teenagers walked in, accompanied by social workers and counselors. 5 kids who'd been missing, exploited, trafficked across state lines and sold like commodities. They looked different, older, harder, carrying scars that would never fully heal. But they were home. The room erupted. Parents rushing forward, crying, embracing, the sound of reunion filling the space. I watched Melissa Parker, the volleyball player who'd gone missing 8 months ago, collapse into her father's arms. Watched Travis Moore, the foster kid everyone assumed had just run away again, meet his foster parents with suspicion that gradually melted into relief. Watched 3 other families piece themselves back together in real time. Maria Santos's mother watched it all, tears streaming down her face, holding her daughter's photograph. Jamie Chen's parents didn't move. Emma crossed the room to them. I couldn't hear what she said, but I saw her take their hands, saw them listen. She was probably telling them what I knew she believed, that they'd find Jamie, that the investigation was ongoing, that resources were dedicated to bringing him home. That hope mattered. But some kids don't come home. That's the truth of this work, the necessary, unbearable truth. Sarah appeared beside me. We stood together, watching our daughter comfort strangers, and my ex-wife said quietly, "She's stronger than both of us. Always has been. David, I need to say something. About leaving, about the last 2 years. You don't have to. I do. I left because I was afraid. Of your trauma, of my inadequacy, of watching you disappear into darkness and not being able to stop it. I thought leaving was self-preservation, but it was cowardice." She looked at me. "Emma almost died, and you saved her. Broken, medicated, traumatized. You still saved her. Because you didn't run. You stayed and fought even when it was hard. I'm ashamed I couldn't do the same. Sarah, I'm not asking to come back. To us, I mean. I know that's probably over. But I want to be here for Emma. And maybe if you'll let me, I can be here for you too. As family. Not as husband and wife, but as people who share a daughter and a history and maybe a future where we help each other try." I thought about Marcus's words in the hospital. You don't carry it alone. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. Emma returned, her face drawn but calm. Jamie's parents are strong, they're not giving up. Good, I said. Neither are we. Assistant U.S. Attorney Brennan stepped to the front of the room, calling for attention. The reunions quieted, families clustering together, 5 recovered kids surrounded by love and relief, and the long road of healing ahead. I want to thank everyone for coming, Brennan began. Today represents both success and ongoing commitment. 5 young people are home because of tireless investigation, because of brave witnesses, and because of Emma Hartwell's extraordinary courage in exposing the trafficking network that took them. Applause erupted. Emma flinched from the attention, stepping closer to me. But, Brennan continued, raising her hand for silence, this is not the end. We have identified over 200 victims across 14 states. Some have been recovered. Many have not. The investigation continues, and I promise you, every family watching, we will not stop until we found every single person Hayes' network exploited. Jamie's father stood. What about my son? What are you doing to find Jamie? We have agents coordinating with Interpol and local authorities in Thailand, Cambodia, and the Philippines following leads from Hayes' financial records. It's complicated by jurisdictional issues and the nature of the trafficking network there, but we have not given up. Jamie is a priority. Priority? Jamie's father repeated bitterly. My son is a priority. He's been gone 10 months. Brennan met his eyes. I know, and I'm sorry. I wish I could promise you we'll bring him home tomorrow, but I can't. What I can promise is that we're fighting for him. Every day. The room settled into uneasy quiet. This was the reality of trafficking recovery. Some victories, some ongoing battles, some losses you couldn't fix with investigation or resources or will. Just empty chairs and parents who'd never stop, searching. The meeting ended with information about support services, counseling, victim advocacy. Families clustered together, sharing phone numbers, building a network of people who understood. Emma stood in the center of it, answering questions, offering what she'd learned, connecting survivors and families with resources. My daughter, the hero. My daughter, the victim. My daughter, the 16-year-old girl who just wanted to make a difference and paid a price for that wanting. Marcus and Liberty joined us as the crowd dispersed. Hell of a thing, Marcus said. 5 kids home, that's real, that matters. But 2 still gone, I said. 2 that we know about. Probably more we don't. That's the hard truth. You can't save everyone, but you save who you can reach and you keep reaching. That's the mission. Is that enough? Has to be, because the alternative is giving up, and we don't do that. Emma finished her conversations and returned to us, exhausted. Can we go home? Yeah, sweetheart, let's go home. We walked out together, Emma, Sarah, Marcus, Liberty, and me. An unlikely family forged by trauma and choice and the simple act of showing up when it mattered. The October sun was setting, painting Millbrook in the same purple and gold light that had greeted the morning after Emma came home. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hartwell, this is Jamie Chen's mother. Emma gave me your number. She said you understand what it's like to keep fighting when everything seems hopeless. Is that true? I looked at Emma. She was watching me, waiting. Yes, I typed. That's true. Will you help us keep fighting for Jamie? I thought about the observation tower, the warehouse, the 4 days when Emma was missing and I'd moved through hell to find her. I thought about Marcus and Liberty, about Sarah trying to come back, about the 5 kids home and the 2 still lost. Yes, I typed. I'll help you fight. Dad? Emma asked. Jamie's mom. She wants help continuing the search. Emma nodded slowly. Are you going to help? Yeah, I think I am. Good. Because I was going to help anyway, and it'll be easier with you. Sarah laughed. Surprised, genuine. You're both insane. You just survived a trafficking investigation and now you want to involve yourselves in another one? Not another one, Emma said. The same one, until everyone's home. Marcus grinned. Well then, guess we better get organized. Military operation, proper planning, clear, objectives. Can't have you civilians running around playing detective without structure. We're not civilians, I said. We're veterans. Of different wars, maybe, but veterans all the same. We stood in the parking lot as the sun dipped below the horizon and Millbrook's streetlights flickered on. Somewhere, Jamie Chen was lost. Somewhere, Maria Santos was healing. Somewhere, 5 families were learning to be whole again, while 2 families held vigil for empty chairs. And here, in the parking lot of a community center where a trafficking ring had operated under cover of charity, 5 people and 1 dog stood together and chose to keep fighting. Not because we were heroes, not because we were whole or healed or perfect, but because we'd learned the hardest lesson of all, that trying matters, that showing up matters, that the necessary things are the ones you do even when you're broken, especially when you're broken, because broken people understand what it costs to survive and what it means to save someone from the darkness. Emma took my hand. Sarah took the other. Marcus stood beside us with Liberty alert at his feet. So, Emma said, where do we start? I looked at my daughter, brave, traumatized, determined to turn her pain into purpose, and realized she'd asked the right question. Not, should we start? Or, can we make a difference? Just, where do we start? We start by going home, I said, getting rest, building strength, and tomorrow we reach out to Jamie's parents and begin the work. The mission, Marcus corrected. The mission, I agreed. We dispersed to our separate vehicles, separate homes, separate healing journeys that somehow ran parallel now, connected, family. As I drove Emma home through the October night, past the houses where ordinary people lived ordinary lives without knowing how close extraordinary darkness had come to their town, I thought about the bracelet I'd given her 2 years ago. You are stronger than you know. I'd meant it as encouragement, a reminder during her darkest moments that she had strength she couldn't see yet. Turned out I was the one who didn't know how strong she'd become, didn't know what she'd sacrificed to save others, didn't know that her strength would save me as much as I'd saved her. Dad, Emma said as we pulled into the driveway. Thank you. For what? For believing me when I said I didn't run away, for coming after me, for not giving up. Emma, you're my daughter. There was never a question of giving up. There was, though, 2 years ago in the garage with those pills. There was a question then. And you chose to stay, to keep trying, even though it was hard. That choice is why I'm alive right now, because you stayed and taught me that staying matters. We sat in the car, engine ticking as it cooled, the porch light glowing yellow and warm. We're going to find Jamie, I said. I don't know how long it'll take or what it'll cost, but we're going to find him and bring him home. I know, Emma said, because that's what we do now. We find the lost. We went inside together. Our home, imperfect and filled with ghosts, but also filled with life and possibility and the promise of tomorrow. The nightmares would come, for both of us now, different wars leaving similar scars. The healing would be slow and non-linear and sometimes impossible to measure, but we'd face it together. Emma and me, Sarah in her orbit, trying, Marcus and Liberty as allies, the Chen family waiting for news, 5 recovered kids learning to live again, 2 empty chairs that wouldn't stay empty forever, not if we could help it. I'd come back from Kandahar broken, believing I'd left the war behind. But standing in my kitchen while Emma made tea and hummed softly, alive, home, fighting alongside me, I finally understood what the war had actually taught me. Not how to kill, not how to follow orders, but how to keep fighting when everything seems lost. How to trust the person beside you even when trust is hardest. How to stand up after being knocked down and move forward, imperfect and scarred and still capable of saving someone. The mission continues, the lost weight to be found, the broken fight to save the breaking. And somewhere in central Pennsylvania, a father and daughter who'd both faced darkness and survived it, prepared to wade back into the shadows, not as victims anymore, but as warriors. They said my daughter was just missing, but the veteran and his dog found her bracelet near the old church, and that small discovery started a chain reaction that brought 5 kids home, toppled a trafficking empire, and taught 2 broken people that redemption isn't about becoming whole again. It's about using your broken pieces to build something that matters. Emma set a cup of tea in front of me. Tomorrow we start planning. Tonight we rest. Deal, I said. We sat together in the quiet house drinking tea, survivors of different hells learning to be present in the same moment. Outside, Millbrook slept, unaware that heroes don't wear capes or badges or have perfect records. Sometimes heroes are just broken people who refuse to stay down. Sometimes heroes are just families who choose each other, again and again, through trauma and trial and the long work of healing. Sometimes heroes are just veterans and dogs and teenage girls who look at darkness and say, not today, not ever again, not while we still have breath to fight. The tea was warm. Emma was home. Tomorrow held possibility. That was enough, that was everything.